Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ashley and I'm an architect, officially an architect. I'm super excited to share it with you guys. It's been 15 years in the making and I'm officially here, 2021, officially licensed. It's been a few days, actually, I think over a week, now that I'm licensed, and I'm super happy to share it with you guys. It's quite a moment, and I hope that this is an inspiration to anyone in the journey. It's a long journey, it is a marathon, so I'm hoping to give you guys some inspiration, and perhaps you're interested in becoming licensed, so this will give you some insight on that journey. I've already shared snips and pieces throughout a few of the videos on the channel, but I decided to make one video that condenses that experience and celebrates the moment because it is a bit surreal. After 15 years, you finally get licensed, and now what? So I'm going to be sharing with you guys my next steps that I'm planning to do in my journey. So if you guys are interested, let's get started. So in Canada, to become a licensed architect, you need three components. You need education, experience, and examinations. Now in this video, we're not going to be talking about how to become a licensed architect in Canada. I have a video on that, so if you do want to see that, you can check it out above or check down below for a link to that particular video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my journey to this point, and I'm going to be sharing some stories about that journey to this point. Now, it has been 15 years. It took me 15 years to get here. It was quite a journey, and of course, it's important to note that that journey varies from individual to individual. I have colleagues that are at the 15-year mark and they're still collecting their hours. And some colleagues and friends in the field that already have their license 2-3 years ago, and they finished a lot quicker than me. So this varies from individual to individual, and there's nothing wrong if it takes a bit longer for you. If you do get through it a little bit faster, nothing wrong with it. Everyone has their own journey and their own story, and you should always look within yourself and see what fits and works for you. I'm always curious myself, and I love to hear other people's stories, so I thought that this video might be a good opportunity for you guys to hear my story, and perhaps it will inspire you on the way as well. So I'm gonna start way back to 2005 when I started my journey with my education. So I started my undergrad in 2006 at Ryerson University here in Toronto. There are some good memories that I still have today from my undergrad, and it wasn't easy. Definitely not. It wasn't easy doing your undergrad, and especially for me, when I went into architecture, I knew nothing about it. I went into it because I had a love for art and I wanted something creative, and I thought about architecture because it included both science and art, and it also involved buildings, putting together buildings and designing, and that was one of the things that I was very passionate about, so I just went for it. I barely did any research, which is not recommended. I would do some research, but at the same time, the fact that I didn't know how difficult or what was ahead for me, in a way, was good because I wasn't really afraid going in. I was very open-minded about going into architecture, and I didn't have any fear necessarily because I really didn't know much of anything. So ignorance, I guess, was bliss in that respect, but I didn't know much. I don't recommend it. I do recommend doing a bit of research, but and at that time I didn't even think of YouTube to look up YouTube videos. I don't think there was much out there at that time. But I went into it, and I still till this day remember the first day at architecture school, my first class, and one of the professors, he made us look around in the classroom, and they said look around, and then I can't remember the percentages that they were giving, but a percentage of everyone in this classroom will make it through the first year, and then another percentage will make it through the second, and so about 50% will graduate, and then another 30% will get their master's. Now don't quote me on the percentages, but they were very low. It was a bit scary when I heard those percentages, but I was just having so much fun at the time, and I enjoyed just architecture in general and the adventure of it, so I wasn't too afraid of those percentages. But looking back at it now, those are pretty accurate, because out of the people that I graduated from undergrad, not everyone got licensed, not everyone went out to do their masters, and so on. And of course, some went out to do other things, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just what it is. And then maybe 10% will actually get licensed. And so I still remember that till this day, my first day at architecture school, and it was a lot of fun. So even though it was very difficult, there were a lot of all-nighters, it wasn't easy, and there were times that, yes, I wanted to give up, but I didn't give up. You have to keep going, and don't let that discourage you that it might be a little bit difficult, because honestly, the things that are difficult are the ones that are worth fighting for. So that's something to keep in mind. So after I graduated the 4-year program, I took a year break, and it wasn't necessarily a break because I was working in the field, and I got a job at a practice, and that gave me the opportunity to really see the real world of architecture. And I remember the first day of the job, and I was terrified. That time I was actually quite scared, and that's when it all hit me that, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be designing buildings and people are gonna live in them. And just seeing all the technical drawings around me, it was a bit overwhelming coming from just graduating from the undergrad, and just feeling overwhelmed at all the things that I had to learn, and just really feeling overwhelmed. But now looking back, if you are starting your first job, don't feel overwhelmed. It will come with time. And you know what? You never, till now, even with the 15, 16 years of experience that I have, I don't know everything either. And I'm sure even when I talk with my mentors, they feel the same way. You're always learning. So after that 1 year of experience, I applied to go and do my master's. And the first year of master's, I went to Carleton, but I didn't quite like the program. So then I switched out to UBC in Vancouver, which was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed the master's program at UBC, and I highly recommend it. A few months after graduating, then I became an intern architect, and I started collecting my hours. And collecting my hours has been a journey. You need 3,720 hours. That's the requirement to becoming a licensed architect. And of course, I went above and beyond. In the end, I collected 8,000 hours, slightly over 8,000. And the challenging part of those hours is collecting them in those particular categories. And sometimes, depending on the projects you get, it can be a little bit difficult to get those hours. And so you never really get them done in the 2.5, 3-year mark. It's very rare. You can rarely get all those hours in a 3-year period. It does take time. It could take, more realistically, I think I would say 4, 5 years. And for me, it actually took me 6 years. Now, I did get a little bit, I would say, discouraged in the process. So I think the last few years, I was getting a little lazy to log and to keep track, because I felt like, oh, this is such a big mountain to climb. So there were times that I decided to watch a Netflix video and submit later, and it's important not to submit your hours late, because then you will be charged late fees. And of course, for those people, for the committee that's reviewing your hours, it's difficult for them to review large amount of hours all at once. So it's important to submit them every 900 to 1,000 hours. But it can at times be a bit discouraging to log and to fill out, the form and to submit. I understand, but it's important to keep in mind to stay encouraged and to submit those hours on time, because slowly you will get there. And of course, it's important to know, and I wish I knew that when I was doing my hours, that getting it into 3 years, 2.5 years is actually very difficult, and it does take time. And you may end up doing it in 5 years, and perhaps in my case 6 years, and that's okay as well. And there are people that are even going beyond 6 years, and that's okay too, because it really comes down to the individual and the projects you're working on and so on. And there's no rush. Again, this is not a race. The whole journey of becoming a licensed architect takes time. Because I'm in Ontario, there were some additional requirements that I needed to do as well as part of my license journey. And one of them was taking the admission course. So I did take the admission course through the OAA, and that was great. So of course, I just want to preface this that depending on the jurisdiction that you reside and work, you may have additional requirements or other requirements as well. So it's important to check with your local jurisdiction. So while I was collecting my experience, I was also taking the examinations. So I didn't wait to have my 3,720 hours to write the exam. Once I got the 2,800 hours, I went ahead and I started the examination process. So it's a 4-section exam and you have 2 days to write it. And that was also a process to prepare for it and so on. It's important to note that you may not pass at the first time. It may take you a few tries to pass the exam, or you may pass it at the first time, but it's important to note that you have 3 chances to rewrite the exam, and that it's important to prepare, even if you have experience. So in total, it took me about 15 years to complete the journey, my education, collecting that experience, and the examination. It took me about 15 years. Now, it is quite a bit of a journey, but it's a journey that takes time to craft your art and so on. And some people take even longer, and remember, that's okay as well. So wherever you are at with your journey, just be patient, and with time and hard work, you will get there. I'd love to hear where you're at in your journey. Are you right now writing exams? Are you taking your undergrad, or you're planning to do your master's, or you're in your master's, or perhaps you're collecting your experience? I'd love to hear down below where you're at in your journey. So now that I'm licensed, the big question is, what's next? Becoming a licensed architect is still a bit surreal to me, and it's still sinking in. But I did have some plans prior to this of things that I wanted to do after I'm licensed, which I wanted to first focus on getting licensed and then jumping into other things. So one of the things that I wanted to do is to become a lead professional. So what I'm planning to do is becoming a lead green associate first, and then I would do the lead building and construction. So if you guys are interested on how I'm preparing for the green associate and for lead, let me know if you guys would be interested in that kind of content down below in the comments, and it'd be great to know if you guys are interested in that. Once you're licensed, you need to maintain your license. So that's the other thing to keep in mind about becoming an architect, is you got to maintain that license, and depending on the jurisdiction you're in, there's different requirements of how to maintain that license. But in Ontario, you got to do continuing education program. So you have to collect a certain amount of hours of structured learning and unstructured learning. And if you guys are interested on how that works, let me know down in the comments, and I'll share with you guys the requirements for continuing education and how to maintain that license. So becoming a licensed architect is a marathon. It's not a race. There's no short way or fast way to become licensed. And that's one of the things that I've learned in the 15 years. It does take time, and it's important to always look within yourself and don't compare yourself. This is my journey, but your journey might be different. So it's important to note that, but you may gain some insight in me sharing this with you guys. When you're on this journey, there's gonna be times that you're gonna want to give up. There's gonna be times that are very challenging, and they're gonna challenge you. And it's important to not give up, and you may have a hard day, but the next day is a new day and you can start fresh again. So if you're in the middle of your journey, just be patient. One day you're gonna be here, like me, officially licensed and celebrating. So it's important to be patient. Don't give up. Don't give up. If you truly love what you do, don't give up.